Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn. I'm a writer at Geek Vibes Nation, and I'm also the author of The Ultimate Guide to Strange Cinema.
Yes, and I am Dillon Gonzalez. I am a senior critic for GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast.
And welcome to a new Video Addict new release roundup. As always, we have, I'm excited. We have some really interesting, very wide-ranging things to talk about today. And I'm just gonna jump right in with my first release, which is Good Burger. This is the 25th anniversary steelbook. And I don't like that math because I remember this as a kid. So I'm so old now, but let's take a look at this. This is from Paramount, and they do a really fantastic job with their packaging and content, I think. So let's pop this open. So this will have a digital code that's just not in there right now. So let me take this disc out, and then I can show you the rest of the. It has a fun little quote there, a little mantra that they say.
Yeah.
Have you seen this recently?
No, not recently. I picked up the standard Blu-ray last year whenever it came out because it wasn't available for review. And I was like, well, it's a piece of my childhood. I know I want it. And now this came out and I'm just like, oh, of course. Yeah. Now there's a cool steelbook with a digital copy now. So how does it hold up?
Well, okay. So, so I think a person of a certain age will find this very nostalgic. This is, of course, based off of the long-running sketches from the All That series. And so this is like a movie spinoff. And I probably haven't seen it since it came out. So I was curious how it would hold up. And yeah, the humor doesn't really hold up. And it kind of comes off more annoying than I think funny. If you're not really in it, it can be like, if you're not really in the mood for that kind of humor, it can become very grating. But I do like the movie. I think that it's clever enough for a pretty breezy 90-ish minute movie. It's not very long, and again, a lot of the jokes are stretched, I think, a little bit too thin. There is some kind of cringy jokes. There's some no homo jokes and some light homophobe or transphobia, which that's unfortunately kind of par for the course. And then it also has Dan Schneider in it, and I don't know if you know about that, but I will just say he has been at least alleged to have done some really bad things. That's all I'll say. So seeing that and him in such a prominent role is kind of skeevy. But, hindsight, I mean, of course, I didn't know that as a kid watching it. And then Brian Peck is in it also. And now he, I believe, was convicted of underage kid stuff. So he makes a cameo in this, and that's also just really skeeves me out. But overall it's fun. It's just it was a little bit of a chore to watch, even though I think I was running on nostalgia fumes. Because I will say, Kenan and Kel, they do have a great chemistry together. I can see why their sketches were so popular. I can certainly see how Kenan Thompson would go on to crush SNL. I think he might be the longest running cast members.
I believe so, yeah.
Which is impressive. So yeah, it was fun. I will say that I was really, and you can probably attest to this as well since you reviewed it, it actually is a really good looking transfer. The colors really pop. It's very crisp. I was trying to scrutinize it a little bit because it is a 90s movie, and those tend to be a little bit kind of hit or miss transfer wise, but I mean, Paramount did a really nice job. I really found not very many glaring sort of flaws in the transfer, the sound as well. So yeah, I will say it's a little bit disappointing because there isn't really a lot of features. I think there is just one like sketch from all that, which is nice because if you're like if you're an older person showing this to like maybe your kids or something, or like somebody that's not really familiar with all that, that is a nice primer to have that on there. But I mean, it would have been nice to have like maybe an interview from somebody that made it, or maybe a commentary track or something. But yeah, if you just want the movie and you want it looking great and you want a really nice packaging, like Paramount's got you covered. So I was very pleased overall with this. So
yeah, I was not expecting a Good Burger Steelbook, but now that it's here, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that it's really nice. I did not get to review the earlier Blu-ray, so it was nice to kind of be able to check this out. And again, it was very nostalgic. It was like it's funny because I was like, wow, like there's like parts of this that I remember so vividly, and then it's like other parts I'm like, I completely forgot,
Yeah.
So yeah, it was fun. It was fun to re-watch that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it holds up for me. I'm going totally far afield. I'll just say, hopefully this conversation doesn't get us on any like weird like message boards or stuff, because I'm getting into like to some conspiracy theory territory right now. So this is the new Shout Factory release of JFK Revisited, the complete collection from Oliver Stone. And no, this isn't the movie JFK from the 90s. These are two new documentary pieces from Oliver Stone, because he is still obsessed with this narrative. The first one is called JFK Revisited Through the Looking Glass. That is a feature film documentary. And the second part is JFK Destiny Betrayed, which is a 4-part miniseries that he did. I actually don't think it aired anywhere. I think he kind of released it digitally, but it's still a miniseries. But he's just doing his thing. I'll continue to show off the package real quick. It's a 4-disc set of DVDs and Blu-rays. So got this, and I'll show the inner artwork. Yeah, so about 6 hours of JFK content delivered here. Yeah. So the feature documentary, Through the Looking Glass, it kind of takes up, I'm not sure the last time any of us has watched the JFK movie, but that film was really entertaining. And whenever I was younger, I was like, whoa, this is wild. He's uncovering all these truths. Like, this is like, he's really hitting hard. But like, you kind of get older and you realize like, he's just telling a really good story, and he's telling like a possibility of something that could happen, but he's telling it so well. It's just very entertaining, even if it's like maybe not 100% true. But he kind of continues that in documentary form. And there's like all these documents that the government has that have finally been released after all these years, that are really like revealing all these hidden mysteries that like people have had for years. And he's really analyzing this data and really getting to the bottom of things. But it's really just his interpretation of things. And I think probably a lot of times he takes information and uses it to conform to what his kind of beliefs about the facts are. And like whether or not Lee Harvey Oswald was a lone gunman, and whether maybe like the CIA was the one that took Kennedy out, or stuff about the other Kennedys. And it's just a whole thing. But he really gets into it with the documentary and kind of really focuses in on what his general beliefs are about what happened to Kennedy, and presenting evidence which with great authority of just like, look, this is like really revealing the truth. But then you kind of, if you take a step back, you're like, does it really? But it's entertaining. It's very entertaining. Like Oliver Stone, he's just he really knows how to tell a story, either narratively or documentary, but you have to like take it with a grain of salt. And then you get into the documentary series, the Destiny Betrayed, and it's kind of more the same. It's like the documentary, the feature documentary is the primer for the miniseries. It's like, okay, so you got kind of like the basis of what I believe. Here's like even further exploration of it in like minute detail. And he also brings in some of the history of the time of like what was going on geopolitically and how the fallout of Kennedy's assassination and like this impacted this thing over like overseas. And it's just very layered and very like minutia driven. So if you're really a person who likes data and like really digging into information, I think you'll really like this. But if you're looking for like irrefutable truth, I don't think you're ever really going to get that with the Kennedy assassination. Everyone's going to have kind of their ideas of what things like are actually true. In terms of this presentation, these are both like new documentary pieces, so it's like crisp and clear. Some of the archival footage is kind of like the best quality it can be. It's not like supremely crisp, but it's like nice enough. But overall, like the new interviews and like the archival footage is like everything's the best that it can be. There is a commentary by Stone and one of the writers on the feature. I don't think there are any special features on the mini series, but overall, it's a really well-rounded package. If this subject interests you, it's like really just going deep into conspiracies. So it's a time. It's Oliver Stone just being wild, but I enjoyed it. It's just like I don't feel like I've cracked the case or anything.
Yeah, no, it seems interesting. I definitely do want to check that out. I like Oliver Stone, but like it's nothing I probably will rush right out. It's funny. I can't probably say exactly what my friend said about Oliver Stone, but I had a friend that worked on, he was an actor in Natural Born Killers, and he said, I'll just say he's quite a character, and I'll just kind of leave it at that. You know, remind me off air. And
I will just say, I would have rather had the JFK movie re-released in 4K, but hopefully that'll come sometime. But it's a good consolation for if he's still wanting to do stuff. But like, I do want JFK in 4K really badly.
Yeah, that's a great movie, and I can't imagine that won't get like a re-release here sometime soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess my next one sort of maybe I guess is a nice sort of segue because it's like conspiracies and all that stuff. And it's a movie from Lionsgate, and that's called Zero Contact. So we have a really nice slipcover here, and that out. I'll show you the back. And so this does have a digital copy that's just not in there right now. Do you know what I mean by when I say it's a Screen Life movie?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so which is a term that I really wasn't familiar with either up until kind of recently. Screen Life movies are basically just kind of like if you've seen that movie Unfriended, it's just everything you see is just kind of like screen contained, which is really an interesting kind of thing because this was made at the height of the pandemic. So it was a nice way to make a movie safely, which I really like Screen Life movies. So I was pretty there. It's a genre that's mostly horror, but not exclusively. Like there's oh gosh, there was a another thriller, screenlight thriller that I did recently called Profile, I think.
Oh yeah.
Last
year.
Yeah, which is pretty good. So this was, as I said, this was filmed during the pandemic, completely remote, and it boasts that it was made with like like in 17 different countries, which is just probably like there's like people that they reach from like all over the world. But anyways, this is a screenplay thriller about a group of people who must figure out how to deal with a late tech genius played by Anthony Hopkins. This like program he made, and it's a little vague, but it's kind of like it could either be humanity's savior or it will like completely destroy everything. And there's like, of course, like a ticking clock to whether or not to like and upload this program or not. It's a pretty interesting premise. I will say it's very convoluted, and there's things about it that I feel kind of pad the film. Like there is this like father-son dynamic with the main protagonist and Anthony Hopkins. And so Hopkins in this it's really weird because I think they filmed it just in his home. So it's just like him lounging around, like talking like philosophically about things. And I guess it's framed as like one of his last interviews. Like his character, anyways, this tech guy. And they kind of splice that throughout, and it kind of like this movie has like really good pacing until it just like dead stops in like this sort of side plot, which is kind of frustrating because it is very over complicated, but I think it's really interesting still. I don't want to like give too much away. Just that's why I kind of made the plot very vague, because it is kind of neat and interesting. But yeah, I don't know if I would watch it again. I mean, it is kind of interesting. I do really like that. They'll show you a little bit of like them hanging out on Zoom or whatever. But yeah, I think it's neat. It's like interesting world building. I just think that it's just a little bit overly complicated, and it's funny because like there's some really tense moments, but by and large, there's really no kind of tension. So it's fine. Again, if you kind of like screen life movies, it's worth checking out. I think that it's a little bit forgettable. I do love, Anthony Hopkins is just literally kind of phoning this in. But he's great because he's Anthony Hopkins. So
yeah,
how would you not just want to watch him like lounging around all day, spouting philosophy and stuff? So yeah, it's fine. But yeah, it's if you haven't seen this, right?
No, I politely passed on that.
Yeah. Well, and again, I really like screen life movies, so that's why I figured I would like give it a chance. It didn't look great, but I like that. I like Hopkins, so I didn't hate it. It's just it's very rough plot wise, but it did have some neat concepts. I just wish that it was better written so it could just bring everything together. But yes, not bad.
Nice. Maybe I'll catch it like streaming one day. We'll see.
Yeah.
Moving on. We talked about a few like CW superhero shows in the past. I am continuing that trend, and I am talking about the third season of Batwoman, which is also its final season, which just recently wrapped. They did not plan it as its final season. It got canceled. Here, I will show this off. It's a 3-disc release. This third season is not as long as previous seasons. It was reduced down to 13 episodes. So that's what I've been doing the past 2 days, is just blowing my way through these 13 episodes. So Batwoman itself, it's probably like my least favorite CW superhero show that I've seen. I will admit, the first season was really a struggle for me. The second season was an improvement, but I think by that time, so many people had kind of bailed on it. They just didn't really care, and I totally get that. In the second season, they replaced Ruby Rose as Batwoman because she just decided to leave. So they brought in a new Batwoman who played by, I think it's Javixa Leslie. I'm probably butchering that, but she plays Ryan Walker. And I liked her take on Batwoman, and I like that she's still a queer character, but now it's from like a Black perspective, and how she's kind of fit into this world. And like a lot of CW superhero shows, they bring in like a lot of real world issues to go in with like kind of the bigger like superhero like characters. This third season, it continues pretty well. I think I was entertained throughout most of it. One thing I do like is they give kind of a bigger platform to some of her, like her team has more to do, which kind of, well, never mind. I was going to say it gives Batwoman herself less to do, but she also has some big things going on this season. Like in the finale of the previous season, Ryan learned that perhaps her mother is not dead as she previously had thought. She was an adopted child, so she had just been told that her mother was dead, and she kind of has to deal with that information this year, and kind of where all the roads that leads. Another member of her team started kind of becoming a vigilante hero himself, to a character name called Batwing, which I did not expect them to adapt that for the screen, but it's really cool to see his journey. And then it also starts bringing in elements of kind of like the bigger Batman mythos. It's been a thing where they haven't really shown Batman except for like one time out of costume, but that was also kind of a misdirect. That's a long story, but they kind of bring in the Batman world. This season focuses heavily on Poison Ivy, and I will say that the way they executed that was kind of interesting, because they kind of threw a twist in there that I was like, oh, does that? Yeah, I think that works. So, and there's just a lot of issues with like family and like the character dynamics of how they relate with one another. I will say that this season ends kind of contained, but then they like last minute throw in like some like cliffhangers where it's just like, okay, we'll see you next season, but like we'll never see them again. So, oh well, guess I'll never know who this person was or whatever, or what they were gonna do. But overall, Batwoman's not a great show, but it is better than it was originally, and I was still entertained by it. It never really kind of found its perfect footing. It was getting there, but now it's canceled. So, I will also say that there's kind of some allusions to the Joker. They don't really show the Joker, but you kind of see like outlines and silhouettes, and there's like a lot of references to them. So if that's enough to intrigue you to like watch this season, that's fine. But yeah, overall it's pretty good. It's just not top tier CW superhero shows. So 13 episodes over 3 discs. They look really nice. I mentioned the character of Batwing earlier. They actually do have a 14-minute featurette on that character, where all like the actor and the creative team kind of discuss his hero's journey on the show. There's also some deleted scenes and a gag reel. So overall, it's a pretty well-rounded package. If you have any experience collecting these like DC TV shows, you know that they always pretty much offer a pretty solid package overall, and this is no different. So I'm glad to round out my collection. Glad I finally got caught up, because I missed the original airing. So it's a pretty good time.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I have not watched that season yet, but I heard mixed things. It's probably why I haven't really jumped into that yet. My next title is one that I was really, really excited about because this was previously out of print, but it is not anymore, and that is Marty from Kino Studio Classics.
Yeah.
So let me just show off his beautiful packaging. Again, Kino always like crushes it, I think, overall, but especially with some really nice packaging. So here's the back, show you some got some nice extras there. No reversible cover art. So yeah, so this is a brand new 4K. So it is upgraded from the previous Blu-ray, I believe. That was like I'm not sure when that previous one was released, but good thing is if you're like me and you missed out on it, you don't have to pay that crazy markup, and you can just get it half the price and looking better. This movie, it's funny because I always think about Quiz Show in this movie. Have you ever seen Quiz Show?
No, it's always been like top of my list that I want to watch though.
So in Quiz Show, there's this big like plot point of like, because I guess this takes place pretty much after, like pretty recently, maybe after Marty came out, and the big quiz show question that he kind of throws is when was Marty or what won best picture for 1955, and it was Marty. And even the characters are like, how could you not know that? Everybody knows that. They just treat it like that's something everybody knows. But so it's funny because I always think about those two movies sort of together. But this movie, as I said, did win a bunch of Oscars, 4 to be exact. It won Best Picture. It also won Ernest Borgnine his maybe only Oscar. I'm not sure, but he definitely won a Oscar for that. And it's really good. So Marty is about a lovable, lonely guy, of course, named Marty, who meets a nice girl named Claire, played by Betsy Blair. But his friends and his mother think she's a dog. They use that word a lot. It's very cringy, but they think that she's like homely and like they shouldn't be going out, and it's kind of a whole thing. But yeah, so but they have a really cute like date, and it's kind of a big thing. I won't give too much away, but I think that you think that I don't like these kind of heartwarming, charming like movies. But I do. The thing is, I I don't like when it gets too sentimental and too sappy. And I think that this movie is a really great example of how you can kind of balance that. So this movie does very nearly tip its hat into the overly sappy, but what brings it back is it does kind of touch on some darker themes, which I think is what gives it sort of a nice balance. I will just say, trigger warning, they do talk about suicidal ideation. Just talk about it, they don't ever show anything like that. But it is a subject that is lightly explored, we'll just say, in conversation. And there is definitely like other themes like isolation and body image is also kind of talked about and explored, but it's done in a way that it doesn't feel nihilistic. It feels thoughtful and like it's exploring some heavy themes, which again, I think kind of keeps it from being too all shucks, a little hokey, a little too like sappy. But it is a feel-good movie. I will say that. It is like a really nice, I like Ernest Borgnine. I think he's like a legend. I don't think that that's news to anyone or shouldn't be. Gosh, Marty's such a charming movie. I don't even know another word to kind of describe it. It's just really fantastic. This commentary track is fire. It really kind of digs into the making of the film, the actors. It really gives you like really nice kind of context behind the whole film. And the director, and it's great. Yeah, so my hope is that Cater to Fair is next. That was the kind of follow-up to Marty, where have you seen that one or heard of that one?
No.
This is a little tangent, but that's fine. It's a great movie. It was written by Gore Vidal. It's based on a play by the same screenwriter, Patty Chayefsky. Am I saying that right? Or Chayefsky, yeah.
Yeah.
That was close.
Yeah.
In the same
I only
ballpark.
know because I heard his name on Fosse Verdon. So
Oh yeah, that's right. He was a character in that.
Yeah.
Also a real life person. But yeah, he wrote the screenplay for this, but he Cater to Fair is based on a play, but like I said, the screenplay is written by Gore Vidal, which that's some amazing pedigree. But you know, Ernest Borgnine's in it, Betty Davis, why I'm blanking on her name. Debbie Reynolds is in it and plays the daughter. And that's a really good movie. It's not really as well received as Marty, but it's kind of getting like it kind of has a cult following thanks to TCM. But I'm just putting it out there. That is also, I believe, MGM or Universal. It's one of the labels that Kino does stuff for. So I'm putting it out there in the universe. I want that movie on Blu-ray, but Marty's fantastic. So definitely worth checking out. Again, it is a re-release. So if you missed out on this, you know, don't sleep on this one because it's great.
Yeah, I was like, okay, full disclosure, I do have the original re-release. Original release. I picked it up last summer during like the going out of print sale on Kino because I'm someone who tries to watch like all the Best Picture nominees, and since this was a Best Picture winner, I was like, oh, I don't want to miss out on that. I need to get that, and it was only like $10 at the time, so I was like, okay, cool, now I own it. And then I saw this re-release was coming with a new 4K master, and I was like, of course, I haven't even watched it yet, so I kind of wasted $10, but like it might have not ever been released again, so I was glad that it got a new 4K release. Yeah. And one thing I want to note about this release is a lot of people were disappointed with the last release because it was released in like an aspect ratio that not everyone thought was the original aspect ratio. So there's actually 2 aspect ratios on this release. So you can choose.
Now, so that's new to this edition.
Yeah.
I didn't have the previous edition. That's good to know. But the commentary track is ported.
I'll get my release just a second. It's just right over here. Keep talking.
Yeah, yeah, you said that the track was ported over from that previous release.
Yeah, okay, yeah. This, I don't think the audio commentary is new on that because there's like nothing here. I think so there's a new audio commentary, and then the aspect ratios, like, because this was just 1:33:1, and I think that one has like a 1:80:1.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So you can choose instead of like this old release here. So you get an upgrade in like special features and like 4K restoration and aspect ratio. So it's like a more well-rounded package for sure.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, because I did not have the previous release, so I didn't know that it was the previous release was bare bones. But so that's great. I love that, you know, when they kind of give you a good incentive to double dip. You know, it's not just like the movie's out again, give me your money. Yeah. It's like, here's some extra goodies on there to make it worth your while.
No slipcover. No slipcover.
Yeah, no, it's a really great movie. I'm so glad that Kino put it out again. They're making it more affordable. It does look fantastic. I haven't seen the older restoration, obviously, but this one I think is nearly flawless. It's not perfect, but there really wasn't a whole lot of artifacts. There wasn't really any scratches that I noticed. It even like grain wise wasn't even that, like sometimes it's crazy heavy when you get some of these older films. And and this was 1955. So overall, it's a really nice packaging, great film, looks great, new features. As you said, the new aspect ratio that you can choose from. So yeah, this has it all. Highly, highly recommend it.
Yeah, I really liked it. I now that I got the new disc, I finally watched it and I did really like it. I won't go in depth into it because you did really well. I just say one scene, it's early on in the movie, but it like really broke my heart. And I was just like, oh, okay, this isn't such like just a completely light thing. It was the scene whenever he kind of meets the dog, his object of affection. Like whenever she's at the dance and the guy just kind of like ditches her, I was just like so heartbroken. I was just like, what are you doing to this woman?
Yeah, it was funny. I watched that with my husband, and he's like, no. He's like, he was, I mean, like, it was literally what you were saying. He was like yelling at the screen because this guy was like such a disgusting human being.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and I was like trying to reassure him that it turns out fine. Like it's a journey, you know what I mean? We'll get there, but it's a testament to the fact that like it can still have that kind of, you know, emotion behind it. And yeah. So again, kudos to Kino. Like that's so awesome. I'm glad that it's out. It's a nice re-release, and it's not just a cash grab. It's got some new stuff. So
absolutely. Okay, this is a case of like you're talking about something that's more traditionally associated with my interests, and now is my time to return the favor and talk about something that is related to your interest. I'm sure this is one that you probably either have pre-ordered or something. It's Hell High from Arrow Video. It's your slasher genre that you love so much. And this one was interesting. Have you seen this one before?
I have not. I heard kind of mixed things, so I'm curious what you think.
Okay. I'm not sure if this will sway your opinion any, but I will say that there's an option on here to begin the movie with an introduction, a vintage introduction from Joe Bob Briggs, where he kind of like gives his case. It's like a 6-minute introduction for like this is one of the like last great like early slashers, and he just kind of goes through it and like kind of gives his rundown of it. And I mean, he made a good case. I started off with that introduction. Like, quick side, it's kind of funny story. I watched that. I started watching that, and near the end, he does this thing where he's like, does his. I'm not as familiar with this program as you, but he does like a scorecard of like things that are all in the movie or whatever. And my wife happened to walk in during that section, and just all the stuff he was listing off and like showing. Like she was just like, "What are you watching?" Because it's just like 2 pairs of gratuitous boobs, like 4 impalings, 4, and it's just like she was like, "What in the world?" I was just like, "It's a slasher. Don't worry about it." But anyway, he prepared me for this movie, and I enjoyed this. I thought it was pretty good, especially compared to some of the slashers that I've seen recently from Arrow, like while I like Girls Night Out or Deadly Games or Death Screams, I would say this is probably my favorite out of like those 4. This one stars I think it is Maureen Mooney, I believe, and she plays a girl who this isn't really spoiling anything. In the first scene, she's involved with a traumatic event. I won't spoil it, but it kind of haunts her. And then you watch her as she grows up, and she's a teacher, and she's kind of surrounded by a bunch of like asshole teenage kids who are like not paying attention, always disrupting class, and she's kind of just like losing her mind. And one of them, he is played by Christopher Stryker. and he's kind of like the leader of that kind of this like rebellious gang, pretty much, of like not like burnouts, but kind of burnouts, like weirdos. And they recruit this new guy who's just been recently, like, he's left the football team. He's played by Christopher Cousins, who people might know best from like Breaking Bad. He had like a short run as Ted, which was Skylar's boss.
Okay.
In the first, yeah. So it's like a very early role for him. And there's actually an interview with him on the disc, which is cool, along with Maureen, the lead actress. But anyway, this goes into a thing of like kind of like home invasion-esque gone wrong. So it's like all these kids trying to play a prank on their teacher, and all the kind of like chaos that ensues whenever you try to prank a person who has trauma. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. You can maybe kind of guess with this. She's the teacher and she's holding a weapon. So anyway, yeah, so it's like kind of home invasion / prank gone wrong. And kind of there's also kind of like a subplot of just like getting involved in a situation where you're in over your head, like, oh, we have a dead body on our hands, what do we do? Like that kind of situation, like how are we going to get out of this? I'll stop there. I don't want to like spoil the movie, but it's a really entertaining movie. It has like a pretty good like amount of like, there's not consistent kills because it's not a traditional slasher, but there are deaths in the movie and they're like pretty well done. There's like good special effects work. There's good use of tension. What I really especially like about this is it's more character focused, and you really get to like know these characters, especially like the like teenagers who are up to no good, and they're kind of different facets of their personalities, and they're really just awful. Like especially like the main guy is awful. The rest of them, like you can see that there's some decent qualities in them, but the main guy, he's just so awful. But I enjoyed the movie. It was entertaining. I was like, it's a quick like 93 minutes, I believe. It goes through pretty well. For like a horror movie from like, I think like 88 or something, it was very entertaining. And this is a really good release. Also compared to a lot of those other movies that I mentioned, this one looks like nearly pristine. It's from a new 2K restoration of the original camera negative, and like some of the parts were like so clear while maintaining the film grain and everything that I was just like, oh wow, this looks like almost brand new. Like this looks like pristine. I loved it. But there was like a few sections here and there where you're like, okay, there's a little bit more like age to this, but it really looked like a really nice transfer. And it has the original like mono soundtrack. It has 3 commentary tracks, I believe. 3 auto commentary tracks, 2 different ones with the director and writer, I believe, and then they have one with Joe Bob himself. So that's like a big bonus for a lot of people, because I know a lot of people love Joe Bob Briggs. There's also a 43-minute interview with the director, a 29-minute interview with the cinematographer. The aforementioned Christopher Cousins, he gives a 19-minute interview, and then the lead, Maureen Mooney, she gives a 20-minute interview, along with more like deleted scenes and just like different small little like featurettes, like trailers and stuff. So overall, I was very impressed by this release. I was glad, like, these types of movies are not always my cup of tea. Like a lot of times I'll enjoy them, but I won't love them. But I really did quite enjoy this. Like I thought it was really strong. So Hell High is a good one from Arrow Video. This is one that I'm really glad that they kind of lifted up and gave like more a spotlight to, because I never would have watched this otherwise.
Nice. Yeah, definitely gonna check that one out. My next one is kind of a weird double feature. This is from Mill Creek, and it is the American and Leatherheads. And so this is a really wild just again, double feature. Have you seen these?
Yeah, I watched Leatherheads for the first time, I think last year, and I enjoyed it. It's like a sweet movie. It's like nothing special, but it's okay.
Yeah. I'll just review both movies pretty quickly. The American, I'll start off with.
Mhm.
It's fairly good. It has a really great opener. Like I think the opening scene kind of does a really great job of kind of establishing the tone of the film. It's kind of beautifully shot. It's very stylish, and it's also has this like what the fuck moment, like because you kind of like they establish this like character that you think is going to be pretty prominent and is not. So it's a nice kind of Hitchcockian kind of bait and switch at the beginning. It's a fairly conventional spy thriller, but it's the kind of flourishes that it has that I think I really like. And specifically, it homages a lot of like westerns, which this was kind of confirmed by the director that that was his big inspiration. Um, and the movie actually did really well at the box office, but it's kind of interesting because it's sort of widely forgotten or really not talked about. I mean, George Clooney's great. He's kind of perfect as this like Bond kind of character. A lot of charisma. I mean, obviously it's George Clooney, so yeah, it's interesting. Is it something I would rewatch? Probably. Would I watch it a lot? Probably not. But it's fine. Leatherheads was really interesting. Again, it's such a weird double feature because these movies are so different from one another. Like with the Martin Short thing that I did, at least they were kind of like both comedies.
Yeah.
One a little bit better than the other, but
Yeah.
that's here or there. But anyways,
Yeah.
Leatherhead is really fascinating because um, it's set in 1925 and it's basically about a group of underdog footballers and a plucky reporter named Lexi, played by Renee Zellweger, and I love her so much. And she's basically investigating their star player and also forming the first pro league. So I mentioned this synopsis because there's a lot of stuff going on. It doesn't necessarily all gel together. It's a little aimless, which I think is why this isn't really that beloved and well known. Clooney directs this film and does a really great job. The movie is charming as hell. I really loved the stuff with Lexi and the news reporter thing, and it's just like it's like this wonderful like um snappy dialogue, Howard Hawks kind of banter. You know what I'm trying to say? Like it's just this back
Yeah.
and forth that it feels very much like a classic film. The production values and design are fantastic. It really puts you into this mood and moment. I mean, but there's just some really weird asides. Like there's this whole like side quest that Clooney and Renee Zellweger go on where like they have disguises and it's like really broad hijinks. And I get it. I understand Clooney was going for like a pastiche of these like films from the 20s and 30s, but it really had nothing to do with pro football. And I don't know. I think had it just been sort of like about old Hollywood or something, um, it kind of would have been, I think, better suited for that. But it was fun. So these are both Universal films, and they look really great. So I'm kind of assuming that this was a newer like scan that Universal did. Like with Leatherheads, things look a little bit blurry and soft at times, but overall it's pretty crisp and clean looking. Same with the American. Um, Again, both are beautifully shot, and I think that the transfers that I'm assuming Universal did look great. They look really nice. So there's really nothing extra. That's kind of like Mill Creek's MO. You just, you don't pay a lot, but you just get the movies. Again, it's kind of weird. They're just two very random movies from George Clooney, but
Yeah.
I like them both well enough. I would probably even say I'd probably revisit some of these again, like Leatherheads. I loved that kind of 20s, 30s sort of. Again, I almost kind of compare it to at times like an old Howard Hawks film. But with football as like a weird incidental. But yeah.
Yeah.
You okay?
Yeah, I was trying to see the production company of something because I was just thinking like maybe a better pairing with Leatherheads would have been like Intolerable Cruelty, because that is a comedy, like a kind of darker, like Coen comedy, and that has George Clooney, I'm pretty sure. So I was seeing if it was Universal as well. I just couldn't quite
Okay.
clock it. I was trying to look for my old DVD of it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. I actually haven't seen. That's a rare Cohen film that I have not seen yet.
Yeah.
Is it pretty good?
It's been a good 15 years since I've seen it, so it's hard to say.
I mean, that might say it all, really. But
it says a lot about how much time I have in the day to watch stuff, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, I would say if you like George Clooney, if you like, I mean, obviously the American is grittier. It's more like violent. Leatherheads is a nice palate cleanser. It's silly. It's a very broad, even zany at times kind of romp. So, really weird double feature. But if you just kind of want these movies, they look really good. So, kudos to Mill Creek for a weird but interesting kind of double feature there.
Yeah, I have both of those separately on Blu-ray, the original Universal releases, so I didn't request that one. But I liked Leatherheads enough that if you can get that pretty cheaply, I would recommend it. But that might convince me to finally check out the American, because it's just been sitting on my shelf and just not being watched, so I need to watch it.
Yeah.
My next title, I could be wrong about this. I'm pretty sure I'm not, though. I think this is the first American release from 101 Films, and this is the found footage film, The Last Broadcast, which came out in, I think, 1997, I believe. 1998. So here, this is a limited edition, like deluxe package, and I really like this. This is nice. It's not quite as sturdy as like an Arrow, like chipboard box, but it comes with a booklet, which is really cool. There are like some like essays and stuff in here, along with like some like weird text and everything. I don't know. It's a really like nice booklet. I like that. So yeah, there's the empty box, and yeah, here is the other, like the actual case here. And yeah, upside down artwork or disc, but I like this internal art. It's creepy. I like it. Like I was reading up on this movie, and I saw that one of the aspects about this movie is that one of the essays in the booklet, at least, is from the director of this movie that you reviewed at Fantasia last year, called the Found Footage film, or the Found Footage Project. Yeah. And I reread your review after I saw that, and I saw that you had mentioned that they had interviewed people from this movie for that movie, so that was interesting. So now I kind of want to watch that film. But this film, The Last Broadcast, it came out a little bit before the Blair Witch Project, but it kind of like follows that kind of same theme. This one is kind of more so framed as like just like a regular like true crime documentary that you would see on TV. So you get a lot of like a lot of old footage mixed in with like new like current talking head interviews analyzing different like facets of this investigation, which itself is about, there is a group of friends, two of which hosted like a local like paranormal like is a talk show, like a public access show called Fact or Fiction. And they went out into the woods with another friend, and two of them ended up killed, and they were looking for the Jersey Devil, and it's trying to decide if the third friend who was arrested for the murder actually committed these murders, or if there's something more nefarious going on. I won't try to over-explain the plot, but yeah, that's basically it. You're just getting a lot of archival footage from the like the trip that have been like newly uncovered. Like you have people playing like a film archivist who is processing this old film that was found. So it's like giving new like context to this stuff that happened, like this case that happened that might break everything open. So it's not, compared to the Blair Witch Project, which admittedly it's been a while since I've seen it, but I've never been a huge fan of, just because it just wasn't quite to my taste. But I appreciate what it did for like the horror genre. This I found more interesting leading up towards like the end, because I'm more into kind of like the classic true crime documentary style, and I thought that was really well done. I think the movie is effective overall, but I've seen a lot of people complain that it loses its way near the end, and I can kind of understand that. Like kind of where it goes, it's unsettling, but it's also kind of out of left field, and you're just like, okay. But overall, I found this to be an entertaining watch, and one of like the better like found footage films from like that early time period before it like really took off. I thought it was overall an enjoyable time. One thing I will say about this new release, this is a Blu-ray, but I'm pretty sure this was shot on videotape, so it's not like crisp and clear. It's as like great as you're going to see like videotape look in the modern HD era. I'm actually pretty sure it's 1080i if my memory of seeing the settings are correct, so it's interlaced. So you have that classic videotape look, and but it looks, there's like no like flaws within that. So it's been remastered, but it's not going to look like crisp high definition, which it's not supposed to. The sound is nice. They have a really nice array of special features. There's 2 audio commentaries from the creative team, one from when I think the year was released, 96, and then the one from like the year 2004, I believe. So you kind of get some different perspectives of like when it was first released and kind of like the legacy that built up to it. There's also a new 31-minute interview from like modern day, even looking further back at like everything that made up the movie and its like legacy. There's also a couple of different other like supplemental like featurettes about the production, some of the people they got, like the non-actors that they got to perform in the film, all that kind of stuff. So this is a really well-rounded package from 101 Films. I'm very anxious to like see some more stuff that they have coming up. I think this fall, I've seen like a few interesting, I think it's called like Ghost Hunters or something like that from the UK. That's like apparently very popular. That I saw people excited about.
Oh,
Yeah, well, Ghost Watch.
Ghost Watch, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was them. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm
really
excited. I'm really excited about that. We covered that on another podcast of ours, and it's, I didn't think it was as scary as like because there's people that like will say that like this it, so legend has it this was so traumatic that somebody had a heart attack and died on its watching the original And I don't think this is hype. Like they had some news articles about it. It was a whole thing. The BBC would never re-air it again. Till like pretty recently, it finally got like a UK home video release, and it's been notoriously hard to find in the US unless you get it like an import. So this is really exciting. I kind of hope that I can like get this to review sometime because we talked about it before and it's a blast. It's not that scary, but it is really effectively good as far as like found footage horror, or like it's not really found footage, it's more like, I mean, I guess you could maybe classify it as found footage, but they also talk about it in the found footage phenomena documentary, which is really fantastic.
I saw that they announced that like either last week or the week before, and people were like so excited to finally be able to get access to this movie in the US. So I appreciate you giving that context, because I think that actually applies a lot to what I'm trying to say for the last broadcast. Like, it's not like scary, but I think is effective for what it's trying to do. So overall, if you're a fan of the genre, it's definitely like one of like the early highlights. So definitely check this out.
Yeah, it's an interesting movie. I'd seen it. I think I still have an old DVD from like the 90s, from like when the Blair Witch Project just newly came out. I think it might have got a re-release, but I remember an old Fangoria where they were talking about like there's a whole article about like, did Blair Witch rip off last broadcast, blah blah blah, and it's always been like sour grapes with the guys from last broadcast. But it's interesting because they do kind of talk a little bit about that controversy in the found footage phenomena, and it's handled really well. Like, it's the guy, as I recall, like the filmmakers aren't overly bitter about it. I mean, they've had a lot of time to process that. I don't think it's certainly not as good as the Blair Witch Project. It's not as compelling. It's an interesting hook, but it gets very repetitive. I just remember it being kind of a slog for big portions of it. But it's fine. I think that the cream rises to the top, and Blair Witch won because it was the better movie. But you have to give it props because it was technically there first. But is building off of a lot of other things, so nothing's new.
Yeah, everyone should go read your found footage phenomena review, because you did like a good job of like talking about some of the early found footage movies. So that's a plug for you. So you can put that in the description.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that. I'm such a found footage connoisseur. I love all that stuff. So if y'all want to check that out, I will put it in the description.
Nice. Yeah, that's all for me. Overall, good release if you're a fan of the movie.
I just wanted to see how long we could just be in awkward silence. But
break up a lot.
So my next one is I don't know a good segue. It's Reno 911, The Hunt for QAnon.
Newly Emmy nominated.
Yeah. And I'll show you the back. It just has some deleted scenes. Are you a fan of Reno 911? Is that kind of your okay?
Since I was young, yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen this yet?
Not yet, no.
Oh gosh. Okay. I've seen some like really kind of maybe overly harsh reviews, but I really liked it. I thought it was just kind of an overly long episode of Reno 911, only on a slightly bigger budget. And I would say it's a little awkward because there's some cast members that feel like they're barely in it, even though they're supposed to be there like the entire time. Like, obviously this is on a cruise, so this is supposed to take place in like one contained area, but I can kind of tell that like some of the cast members are more popular. They're booked and busy right now. Niecy Nash is kind of like spontaneously in and out of the movie, and I love her. But like she's kind of not in it a lot, but it's really fun. There is a whole musical number that had me on the floor because I was not expecting it. Also, you do find out who Q is, and I won't spoil it, but it is hilarious. Like Lieutenant Dangle, played by oh, why am I blanking on
Thomas Lennon.
Thomas Lennon. Yeah, Lennon. I was like, John Lennon? No, that's not right. But he's great. He has these like right-wing conservative shirts, but they're all like rainbowed, and I love that. It's hilarious. He has like a rainbow "Don't Tread on Me" ensemble that fucking kills me. So it's really fun. I understand it's not high art. It definitely is a little bit like the plot, especially in the last act, just is a little bit muddled, but I had a lot of fun with it. And it has Patton Oswalt in it. It has Brian Posehn in it. I can't think of the actor's name, but he's in Peacemaker. But it has like one of the best. This sounds like a weird aside, but I'm going somewhere, I swear. One of the best gay characters in any kind of media is in the Sarah Silverman program. Have you ever seen that?
Are you talking about Steve Agee's character, the big guy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, him and Brian play this amazing gay couple on the Sarah Silverman program, and they're like reunited for this, and I got like really insanely happy about that. Nice. Seeing them together again. It's almost like a mini like Sarah Silverman reunion, and I love that show. So anyways, yeah, it's fun. It's not high art, but it's not trying to be. It's just funny, silly, dumb, but it has that kind of sharp oh my gosh, I cannot talk, satirical wit that the show is kind of known for. So yeah, it's great. I was a little bit disappointed that it does not have a Blu-ray option. If you want it on home video, it's just a DVD. I don't know why Paramount did that. Only I'm guessing this is streaming on Paramount Plus, so that might be kind of why like they wanted to like look a little more enticing to get it digitally, but you know us, we love our but you know, if it does well enough, maybe they might do a Blu-ray, maybe they might do a beautiful steelbook, which I would like buy in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
Like take all my money, I would definitely support that. But it's fun. If you've heard some not great things, and if you are a fan of the show, I don't think you'll be disappointed.
Awesome. Yeah, I need to watch that. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Reno 911, and even if it's like dumb, I like the dumbness of Reno 911. So yeah, I'll have to check that out.
I won't spoil it, but there are some cameos that had me like just reeling, like why, how, and oh my gosh, like that's amazing. So I will leave you with that like little teaser there.
Awesome. I'm excited. Going to my next title, this is a Scorpion and Kino Classics release of Where the Lilies Bloom, which is kind of yeah, I'll never tell. This actually does have reversible cover art, which is fun. I will show that off now. So
nice.
Yeah. So yeah, this is like a rural drama. I'm going to try to get better about my pitches. I feel like I try to get too much into the narrative, but basically, this is about a family who are kind of living out in the country, and there's the 4 children, and there's a father who is sick, and he makes his young daughter, just in case if anything was ever to happen to him, he promises her, or makes her promise to like take care of the family, make sure that her sister doesn't marry this neighbor who he doesn't really approve of, played by Harry Dean Stanton, and to just basically keep the family afloat and keep everyone together. That's the basic thing. The father dies, and so this young girl who is like 14, she is left to basically take care of her family, not let anyone know that the father died. So where the lilies bloom is where they bury her father in secret, because if people were to know that the father had died, they would have to like come in and like basically split up the family because they can't take care of themselves. So basically the movie is them trying to keep the secret about their father, maintain their own lives, like living on the farm, eventually going back to school when school is back in session. And like kind of the emotional toll it puts on this family of like trying to keep this secret and stay together. Because of course, like a 14-year-old, it's hard to raise like even children younger than her. And like sometimes they want to go along with the plan, but other times they're just fed up with their lifestyle and all that. I really like this movie. It's like very like well considered, and it's like well acted. I really like especially Harry Dean Stanton, because he is positioned to be this character who it's like, oh, he's interested in dating or like marrying this young girl who like he's like wanting to court her, but he's made out to be like skeezy, but then he's also shown to have like some depth to him, and like he may not be as like one-dimensional as he is first portrayed. And like everyone kind of has a little bit more nuance than first lets on, which I really appreciate. That it's not just like these are caricatures, go forth, like watch them. And I wouldn't say it's like poverty porn either, because they are struggling, but there's like also a lot of scenes of these like children kind of like doing well on their own, but then there's just like some obstacles that children just aren't equipped to kind of take on. So yeah, it's really well done. It like takes a lot of interesting dramatic turns. It's not overly long. It's 97 minutes, so it doesn't really like overstay its welcome. There's like one scene in this that I was just like, what is going on? It kind of like takes a different tone. I'll just say it's whenever these kids who do not know how to drive a vehicle attempt to drive a vehicle, and just what happens from there. I'm just like, it stressed me out so much. I was like almost having an anxiety attack on their behalf, because I was like, what are you doing? You're insane. Anyway, it's a good movie. It's like a thoughtful drama, and that's basically all I can say. I will say I had never heard of this movie before, so I think it had only been released on DVD previously. This is a new 2K master. It looks really great for the most part. It's still like a movie from like the 70s, I believe, so 1974. So it's like it has like that older, like gritty 1970s film stock, but it's not like it's really well refined. It's not like clumpy or anything, which is nice. There's still a few like nicks and scratches here and there, but not too much. It sounds good. There is a new commentary from film historian Daniel Kramer and a theatrical trailer. So it's got at least one nice special feature to get some context, and it looks good. So if you like just like rural dramas, Where the Lilies Bloom, I enjoyed it. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. A lot of it because of Harry Dean Stanton, because I really love Harry Dean Stanton, but the rest of the cast is really good too.
Yeah, that sounds pretty interesting. I also think not marrying Harry Dean Stanton probably seems like sound advice. I mean, listen, I think he's a great actor. He comes off very intense and creepy, so I can understand why you wouldn't want your 14-year-old to marry Harry Dean Stanton.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But yeah, no, that sounds really interesting. I do really like as you say, like rural stuff, but it doesn't like really, it's not like a punchline. So
Yeah, it's just characters living their lives. It's not like, oh, look at these yokels, or it's just like them just living.
Yeah, they're living their best lives.
Yeah.
So my next one is kind of fitting because it is summertime. And that is One Crazy Summer. And oh boy, it really was a crazy summer that everyone was having.
I cannot wait for you to follow up on that DM you sent me last night.
So here's the thing. I know a lot of people love this movie. Like I logged it on Letterboxd, and then I saw like all of my friends have like 5-star reviews of how this movie was so amazing and transformative and the greatest thing ever put on celluloid. I thought it was fine. But I really it was a hard watch because I was not really into how broad the comedy is. Like there's this one scene that I thought was really, really good, which is the Godzilla party scene.
Oh yeah.
Which is so dumb, but it was like a lot of this movie seems like it was like Airplane, but like not as funny or interesting. Like wait, who was the guys that did Airplane?
The Zucker brothers.
Yeah, so it seemed like it was very much trying to be like that, only it just didn't feel like the writing was maybe as polished to maybe get away with some of that broader comedy. Like, yeah, I don't necessarily mind over the top humor. I think it's a little bit harder to pull off. And it's interesting because I think a lot of people like this movie because, it's an 80s movie. They probably saw it at the right time. It might be like nostalgia that's like propelling a lot of this. Like, I don't think it's an awful movie. I just think it was really hard for me to connect with it. Like, I didn't really connect with the characters. I don't really like John Cusack. I've never really liked him, and I know that like I've had some friends that ran conventions that had him as a guest and said he wasn't very nice or a very nice person to deal with. So that's unfortunate. I've also met fans that met him and he wasn't very personable or nice. Basically just takes your money and tells you to buzz off. But it's nice to see a young Demi Moore in this. Whatever happened to her? I don't feel like I've seen her in anything anymore.
She was in something recently. I cannot remember what it is off the top of my head, but she's around. She's around.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's fun. I mean, it's fine. There are some really funny moments. Again, that Godzilla party scene had me in stitches. I loved it. Yeah. It's just again, I know a lot of people love Bobcat Goldthwait a lot. I do not. It's like Carrot Top or like some of those other comedians. You really have to like that very specific brand of humor that they cultivate. And it's for other people. It's fine. It's fun but a little predictable, and it was weird because it like throws in a lot of like plots that are like there's like the real estate developer plot, there's like the love thing, there's like another gang that's trying to get their money back from Demi Moore. It's just a lot. It's a lot to process. It certainly was crazy though. I mean, the title does say it was a crazy summer, and oh boy, it was wacky. Um, so I don't know. I'm not really that cynical that I can't enjoy stuff like this, but it's just it really did not engage or connect with me. But I know I'm the silent minority on that. So
Okay. I would try not to go too long with my thoughts. I'll just say this. I reviewed this for Geek Vibes Nation last year when it first came out from Warner Archive. One, I had never seen the movie previously. I had no nostalgia, so that's not it.
okay.
I love this movie, and like controversial opinion, I like this more than Airplane. Okay, because I rewatched Airplane whenever it came out for Paramount Presents. I think the year before in 2020. And it did not hold up as well as I wanted it to, but this had me laughing. One Crazy Summer, like maybe it's because I expected it was just going to be like a standard like teen 80s movie. And that's kind of like, okay. And I kind of sat down with my wife and we just like started watching it. And then it started throwing in all these weird gags. Like one of the first gags, I was like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was. It's like, it's a stupid gag, admittedly, but it's just like the girl's just like, making the faces. It's like, oh, they'll stay like that, and they get hit and their faces stay like that, and they look like weird like pig monsters, and it's real. I was just like, whoa, that's not what I was expecting. And then there's just like gags like that with like people. I just remember this one gag of like a kid being asked to hold on to a kite and he just like flies off. That had me dying laughing. Anyway, like I just love the humor of this. It just really tickled me. I'm not like a huge fan of Bobcat Goldthwait. Like as an actor, I more appreciate him as a filmmaker and a person. Like I've heard him on a lot of podcasts, and like I like a lot of his like dark humor in his film. I'm not sure if you've seen like World's Greatest Dad with Robin Williams, or like he's a really interesting filmmaker. That's like he makes a lot of really dark stuff. Like God Bless America is another one. It's like a really dark satire. But
did he do
I really
Bigfoot movie.
The what?
Did he do a Bigfoot movie? I didn't mean to cut you off.
I think he did, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he's a really out there filmmaker, but just him as an actor, I like him pretty well too. I will say, if you do, or even if mostly if you like this movie, if you're a fan of this movie and you're considering purchasing this, I will say they have an audio commentary track on this, which isn't always the case with Warner Archive, but they ported that over, and either that or it's new, one of those. But it's a really, really funny audio commentary track. You might not think so because you didn't like the movie, but I love the movie, and I listened to the audio commentary track, and I got a lot out of it. So I'm defending the movie. I thought it was really great. I put it as 4 stars, not 5, but I really loved it.
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't hate it. I fully appreciate the fact that it's not my kind of humor, but it's fine if it is other people's. You know, it's not like not judging anyone. Like I think that that's completely valid. I mean, there are some scenes that are really funny, and I do really like the animation is pretty wild. I love how it almost felt like, I don't know if you know who the animation person was, but it felt like Robert Crumb kind of underground. I'm very doubtful that it was probably him that actually did the animation. Like I'm looking at it. I'm kind of curious, but I do like that kind of underground comic sort of style. So having that be like a bit of a framework for John Cusack's character looking for love, I thought was interesting, and I am like perfectly happy with giving it its props. But yeah, I'm like looking up who did the animation. I would be very surprised if it actually was Robert Crumb that did the artwork, but yeah, it's kind of in line with that, which I think is really cool. So apparently it's a bunch of animators, but it wasn't Robert Crumb, but it very much is that kind of style from the like 60s and 70s sort of underground Crumb kind of comics. So yeah, it's fine. It does look great. Again, I am never disappointed with a Warner Archive title. They always do a really fantastic job. it looked great. You know, there's a lot of outdoor scenes that just look crisp and beautiful, and like, what was this from, like, 86? And I mean, it doesn't look like it's almost 40 years old, I will say. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine. I it's just a little bit, again, it's a little bit more, I think if the writing was better to pull off some of that more over the top humor, but it's fine.
Yeah, I'll just be over here on my island, just enjoying myself with this
No,
movie.
listen, I saw that like everybody seems to like this movie but me.
It
Although
happens.
it was interesting after watching it, it was interesting looking at some of the original reviews, which is a little harsher. I think it has like a 44% freshness rating on Rotten Tomato, but I don't know. What do I know?
Hey, you know a lot, okay? Don't, don't put yourself down. I'm going to continue kind of a more throwback. I'm going to rewind us with the NBD Rewind collection. I have two titles that I want to talk about. I have Miami Blues and The Desperate Hours. Starting out with Miami Blues, I think this is kind of a nice transition away from One Crazy Summer, because this one actually is a weird tone. Like, it's kind of like has like a darkly humorous tone. This is number 40 in the Rewind collection. And I'll just show off the package a little bit more. Same. There's here. This is a fold out poster. Talked about a couple of Rewind collection titles a few weeks ago, and we had the same situation. If you buy early, you get them. So poster of the cover art that's on the front, and there's also reversible cover art with a shirtless Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, that's a vibe.
If that's what you want, that's what you get. So I mean, in the 80s, people didn't know any better, so you just kind of go with it. So yeah, this is Alec Baldwin, Fred Ward, and Jennifer Jason Leigh. So Alec Baldwin plays a criminal who he has just arrived in to Miami, and he right off the bat, as soon as getting off the plane, like he is already carrying like some spoils of some of his like criminal exploits from the past. He, as soon as he gets off the plane, he is approached by like a Hare Krishna who's like trying to like give him his like beads or whatever, and he's like not having it, so he breaks the Hare Krishna's fingers.
Oh wow.
And I think the Hare Krishna ends up dying, and I was just like, whoa, this is wild.
Wow.
But anyway, that's kind of how Fred Ward gets involved, because he plays a cop who's all, this has such a weird tone. Like every character has like very distinct character traits. Like Fred Ward plays a cop, but like he's a cop who has like dentures that he'll just take out and like lay on the desk or whatever. It's just such like a weird character choice. Just like a little like extra like texture to the character that's fun. And then Jennifer Jason Leigh plays like a hooker with a heart of gold, of course. So like Alec Baldwin orders up like a prostitute. She comes, she's like a girl trying to make her way like through school. But then she's kind of like a naive Southern girl, and she ends up kind of like falling for the charms of Alec Baldwin, and eventually like they become an item. But he's kind of like misleading her, and like she playing into her naivete of like saying he's just like a businessman, and she's like, oh cool, like I'm finally gonna be like saved basically, but they go on a path. But it's basically kind of like it turns into like a weird thing where Alec Baldwin takes, I don't want to spoil that plot point. He begins to act as a police officer in certain respects, but he like does it very badly and ineptly. Like he's like committing crimes while posing as a police officer, and there's kind of like a cat and mouse thing with Fred Ward. It's a really wild movie. I'll just leave it at that. It was entertaining. Like there's a lot of like cringeworthy elements to it, especially like with the Jennifer Jason Leigh stuff. There's just like a lot of moments where she's just like naked for no reason, like just hanging out. So if you're a Jennifer Jason Leigh fan, like go for it. I love her. I don't need her just like gratuitously nude all the time. But it has like a weird dark humor throughout. It's like pretty well paced. It's 97 minutes. Yeah, if you like dark comedies, I think you'll enjoy this. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would, because I thought it was just kind of be like a bland 80s movie that's just kind of like straightforward action, but it really had that really bizarre sense of humor that really worked for me, at least. So I enjoyed that. This looked really nice. It comes from a new HD master provided by MGM, and it looked really nice. I think MGM probably had done like a remaster prior to giving it over to MBD, so I was very impressed by how well it looks. I know a lot of like the Rewind collections, they just kind of have to like go with whatever they're given, and sometimes that's not the best quality, but this I actually really enjoyed. Other than that, there's like some vintage interviews with Alec Baldwin and Jennifer Jason Leigh. Of course, they're not going to get new interviews with them because they're way too famous now, but they do have some vintage interviews. And yeah, overall, it's a weird little, bizarre little movie. The Desperate Hours is a Michael Cimino film, one of those. He's the guy who did Heaven's Gate, famously troubled production. This has Mickey Rourke, Mimi Rogers, Kelly Lynch, and your boy that you mentioned earlier, Anthony Hopkins, is in this. Actually in person, not just on a screen this time. So the thing about this is, this was previously released in a Mickey Rourke 2-pack from Shout Factory, which has been out of print for a while. It's kind of that situation from a few weeks ago whenever we were talking about Vampire's Kiss, where this has been released previously, but people who missed out on it were having to pay exorbitant prices. So NBD stepped in, and now you can own this once again. Here's the reversible cover art here. And I think if you're a fan of Mickey Rourke, which coincidentally, he's been on my Twitter timeline a lot this week for kind of talking about Tom Cruise and how he's basically become like a gun for hire, like actor, not being challenging and stuff. So it's like brought up a lot of conversations on my timeline. And then I end up watching this movie and I was like, interesting timing. This film is about Mickey Rourke plays a criminal who escapes from like jail. He's like on trial, but he escapes from his trial, and he ends up taking this family hostage who is kind of like connected in some way to his like kind of case. It's Anthony Hopkins and his family. I will say there's like some weird humor in this also, not as much as Miami Blues, but there's some like offbeat humor, but mostly it is kind of like a more kind of hostagey thriller type situation with like some interesting character moments with like Mickey Rourke and some of the like side characters. I believe the actor's name, I apologize if this is wrong, I think it's David Morrissey, plays one of his henchmen. And he gets like a really interesting arc whenever he starts to feel the pressure of like, maybe they shouldn't be doing what they're doing, and how that evolves from like that from there is really interesting to me. But other than that, it's just kind of like a pretty straightforward hostage-y type thing. There are some like bizarre moments of humor with the police. There's a young Dean Norris who was one of the principals of, once again, Breaking Bad earlier. He plays Hank, everyone's favorite DA agent. He's like young and he has a little bit of hair in this one, which was fun. So this is a good movie, not great. There's some like logic issues, as sometimes happens in like thrillers like this. Like, why didn't you just do this? Or why would you make this decision? But I think what really saves this for me is the performances. If you're like a young Mickey Rourke fan, you're in for a good time. Anthony Hopkins does a good job, as you would expect. Some of like the female characters aren't the best written, but overall, it's a pretty decent movie. This has like a behind the scenes featurette, but not much else besides that. It looks pretty nice. I'm pretty sure it's probably the exact same master as Shout used. So if you have that release, you probably don't need to upgrade. But otherwise, if it's new to you, it looks nice and it sounds good. So yeah, overall, pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, that both they both sound pretty interesting. Would you say that they would make a good like double feature if one was so inclined?
Yeah, of like bizarre crime films.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my next movie is not a movie, it is a book about movies. And it is Rock on Film, and it is really fantastic. So this is by Fred Goodman. He was a former Rolling Stones contributor, and this is of course put out by TCM and Running Press. And I have to say, as somebody that has actually done a book like this, it is very impressive. So let's just take a look at it. Here is like the opening page, which that's from Pink Floyd's The Wall, which is an excellent movie. So this is the contents here, and as you can see, it's very well organized. I had to say, it's really kind of awesome. Not only does this have a lot of great, stuff about just not only like rock used in films as far as like just like needle drops, but also just like movie centric rock films.
That's cool.
Yeah, like they talk about like the very beginnings, like Rock Around the Clock in Blackboard Jungle, which was so mind-blowing. It actually, they say that like kids were so into it that they actually caused riots in the theater. So they talk about that. They talk, of course, about the Beatles, about Elvis. They do this really cool thing that I like. So they'll like talk about a movie, and then they'll say like, okay, if you like that, make it a double feature and check out like something that's like tonally similar. Like they do that with like Spinal Tap, for instance. They do a whole thing on that. But then if you want to make a double feature, check out Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story,
Yes.
which is the greatest movie ever. Are you like that too?
Yes.
Yeah.
I use the quote like, I want more blankets and less blankets at the same time, like all the time.
Yeah, see, we do occasionally, we come together on the really important movies like Walk Hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and I also want to point out just how beautiful the photo reproductions are. That's not always a given. I will say that there's a lot of publishers that do not, like there's another really good example that don't really do a great job at high quality photo reproductions. I will say with my book, little thing here, they had fairly good photo, like not as good as this because this is like glossy and beautiful, like, but like it still has some good, I think, photo reproductions. But again, that's not always a given. And what I really like about this book also is it has some great interviews. We got like John Waters, an interview with him, Jim Jarmusch, who I love. Yeah, just really incredible stuff. It's a really well put together. I'll flip through some pages here to kind of, I'm trying to think of a way to do this not awkwardly, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, oh, Criterion just put that out, by the way.
I was just thinking that.
So beautiful book. Look at this. I mean, it's really well put together. I highly recommend it. It's such a breezy read too. Like it's like something that I got through in a couple of days. And that's not to suggest that it's like a bad read. Like it was great. Like I breezed right through it. Again, it takes you through a nice timeline, but then it gives you the movies in like little chunks. So you're not reading an entire dissertation on like one movie. It's just one like clear, concise reviews. But again, it's done in a very thoughtful, chronological way that, you know, it makes sense and it's great. Again, I like the double feature kind of aspect if you want something to kind of like go with it. Any movie or any book that kind of shouts out rock and roll high school is definitely more than okay with me. So yeah, it's great. I really I like putting a book like this together is probably staggering, I will say, because I mean this took me a year and some change of my life, and this probably was maybe even more than that. It's beautifully put together. I've showcased another book from TCM slash Running Press, which was the stunt on film book, and yeah, that was fantastic too. So I mean, it just beautifully written. The pictures are fantastic. It kind of gives me everything I want in a book like this. It's beautiful. I mean, it looks really nice on your shelf. There's the back, and yeah, it's really fantastic. I think that if you love rock and roll films and want to know more about like just how not only not only how it's like used purposely as a soundtrack, but just something that's a little bit more like actually like rock and roll centric, like the Beatles movies. Actually, this kind of would have been awesome last week when you were talking about like A Hard Day's Night. That of course is covered in here, and yeah, so that's really awesome. I think it's not definitive by any measure, but like it is a great like jumping off point, and like I learned a lot. So I love stuff like this. So it's very, very highly recommended.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, and I think like that will probably do it for this episode. And I was like, well, it threw me off a little bit because you doubled up. So I was like,
yeah, that's all I got. I'm sorry.
But it was a fun ride. It really, you really had it all. Rock and films, Harry Dean Stanton marrying a 14-year-old. You really, Anthony Hopkins just lounging around his house. You had it all. So as always, my obligatory, please give us a like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. And also just thanks for hanging out with us.